Please join me in giving Bishop Wade Moore a warm Pachyderm Club welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. You can continue eating that wonderful lunch that's been prepared. Yeah, so glad to be here today. I want to thank John and Johnny for giving me the opportunity again to attend the Pachyderm meeting. I'm a member of the Pachyderm Club, and I guess it's due time. I got to pay my dues again for this year. So we'll take care of that. And just an honor to be here, The second time I think that I've been a speaker here, and I count it as a great privilege. One of the highlights, when I travel, I brag that I speak at the Pachyderm Club. And I was talking to the students about that this morning and asked them, what is a pachyderm? And their hands were like, but then I had one first grade student. He said, a big elephant. I said, yeah. So he got it right. Yeah, but it's an honor and a privilege to be here among you. And I want to say thank you for your generous support and helping us along the way. I am the founder and dean of the Urban Prep Academy. We're a K-8 private school that I started for low-income and working-class families and children that are struggling in school, whether they're struggling emotionally, academically, socially. We wanted to give them an opportunity to be in an environment where they could really learn. Every child can learn, but they learn different. And got tired of seeing children failing, got tired of seeing schools letting children down, and some of them doing the best they can, but yet and still it did not fit for all students. Sometimes I buy socks at Walmart. Sometimes I buy socks at JCPenney. I can't limit myself to just going to Walmart and getting my socks. And so I have to have a choice on where I want to purchase my things, and I believe that our children should have a choice, families should have a choice in their child's educational journey. So I want to say thank you for those that are supported, and for you to know that we are good stewards of whatever donation you make. I mean, we squeeze everything we can out of it. Yes. And so we're having some great progress. This year we have 50 students. Last year we were at 52. The year before we was at 52. The year before was at 39. We started with 13. So we're having some steady growth. And we expect another surge this coming school year, next school year, to bring in more students. And so we're thankful for our elected officials. Thank you for your service, and thankful for the new ones that are coming in, going into Topeka this year. And their bark is worse than their bite up there, so y'all will be fine, all right? So you just go in and get it done, and we're there for you. And we really need your support in Topeka to help us out with helping families and helping children in their educational journey. My journey has been quite a journey to get to where I am now as I stand here. I mean, memories flood in my mind, and a little emotional about where I came from and where I stand today. And nobody knows your story like you do. And for me to be standing here today, to me, it's amazing. It's nothing short of a miracle to be standing. And I'll be talking about that in my presentation. It's also Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Weekend, Monday being the official holiday. Dr. King would have been 90 years old this year had he lived, 90 years old. So that's quite significant for a lot of people around the world that are celebrating his birthday and his work. And I thank you for celebrating and honoring Dr. King and his legacy and what he meant to so many people. And so there's so many things that have transpired in the past few years that have really rocked our nation. But I tell our people we live in the greatest nation on the face of the planet. I mean, this is it. I don't know why people would want to move to Canada. If any Canadians in here, nothing against them. I don't know where anybody want to move to Great Britain. Wow, man, but America, this is the land of the free, the home of the brave. And this is the land of opportunity, greatest nation on the face of the earth. So I'm proud to be an American. And we did the flag salute. That's something I have students do every day. Every day that we walk through the doors of Urban Prep Academy, we do the flag salute. We stand and do the flag salute. And so we're privileged and we're honored to do that. All right, so we'll get into this. Thank y'all for the meal. Oh, the food is good. Students, did y'all enjoy the meal? Yes? All right. A plate lunch. You didn't eat out of a Wendy's bag today. You got a plate at lunch. Yeah. So I should have gained some points with y'all today bringing y'all here. So good behavior rest of the school year, all right? Remember this plate at lunch, all right. So my journey began in Northeast Arkansas. It's a place that we call the Delta. And that is this area going down over into Tennessee. This is Arkansas and Tennessee, Louisiana. I was born in Osceola, Arkansas, right in that area. We lived right in that area where you see Pecan Point, in a small town called Bassett, Arkansas. That's Mississippi County. Bassett, population 168. Yes. When I was growing up, they changed the sign. When I was growing up, it had a population of 181. So as you can see, we had a mass exodus out of Bassett, and they're down to 168 now. So Bassett, little small town out in the country. Now that's Bassett, that's the water tower. Every town had their water tower. And so there's the town over there, and you see that cotton field across there and other fields on the other side. I took this picture at the gravel road where our house used to be that we lived in down in the Delta. So this is standing in the gravel road out by our house, and across the field there's a gravel road that went all the way around across the railroad tracks, but that was the shortest view. Now, growing up in Arkansas, we played sports, and after our activities, they had a bus that would take kids home, or they would take you as close as they could. And at night, coming home from games, the bus would not cross the tracks and take me to school, but they would let me off over there, and there I was, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. I had to walk home at night. No street lights or anything like that. So they let me off over at the railroad tracks, and I wouldn't take the road. I would cross the cotton fields and the bean fields and run home at night about a mile and a quarter away. And when I would see headlights on the road, I would duck down in the cotton and just lay there until headlights went by me, because there was a lot of things going on in the South that were not pleasant at that time. So that's a view from where I grew up, where we used to live. This is a town, now my town was Bassett. This is a town called Joyner, where we went to elementary school. And this is Joyner, and you see the 2-lane highway going through Joyner. And you don't slow down. If you slow down, you miss it. See, the buildings are dilapidated, water tower. Now, what is so unique about those two towns was the town of Bassett and the town of Joyner, 2 miles apart. And, you know, every town, the name of the town, there's significance to it and why they named it that town. And so I never did any research on it growing up, but a few years ago, I went to Washington, D.C., and me and my wife had an opportunity to go to Thomas Jefferson's plantation and to learn some things there and to tour it. So while we were there, they have the actual slave houses, they have the actual accommodations that they had for the slaves, and the tour guide showed us certain slave houses and quarters, and they said this quarter housed the Joyners, and this quarter housed the Bassetts. and they were housed according to their occupation. The Bassetts were woodworkers, and the Joiners were metal workers. And so our towns were named after professions that slaves once had. And that was pretty intriguing to me. So there's Bassett and Joiner, 2 miles apart from each other that I grew up. Grew up in Arkansas. Their main crop was cotton. They call it white gold. White gold. It's everywhere. And that's I took that actual picture down there. I picked cotton down in Arkansas, chopped cotton down in Arkansas. That's what my dad did. He was a sharecropper. I am the son of my father's old age. My father, my daddy, my pops. My dad was born in 1906. Now, I'm not 70 or 80. My father was born in 1906. So if my father was alive today, my dad would be 116 years old. So I'm the son of his old age. And so his parents, my grandparents, my direct grandparents were slaves. They were slaves. And my father would take me around everywhere that he went. My father had the responsibility of taking care of all the elderly citizens in that community. And some of them much older than him, some of them were former slaves. So I grew up around them, heard their stories, things like that, had an awesome experience and growing up. And so that's another one of the cotton fields. Picking cotton. People would take those long bags and drag them all day long down there and pick cotton. Then they would weigh the cotton and get paid on how much. I remember, I had this Saturday, money was awesome down there. I remember picking cotton one Saturday, and this sticks in my mind because it's the most money I ever had in my pocket at that time growing up. And picked cotton all morning, all afternoon, and weighed it, and they paid me, and they gave me 3/4, a dime, and a penny. 86 cents. Boy, I felt good. I had never had that much money in my life. I had 86 cents. I remember going to the store and buying candy, man, and just feeling rich, and my brother holding on to me and wanting me to buy him stuff. But that was a lot of money picking cotton. Even children went to the fields and picked cotton. Entire families went to the fields and picked cotton. And after a hard day's work in the fields, that's what people would often look like. But now times have changed and cotton is harvested in a different way. With industrial machines and everything. They're baled in squares and circles and all that, more cotton, picking cotton. Yeah. And then this is the last home that I lived in while I was in Arkansas. This was our home. When we finally moved from across the railroad track, we moved into this house. Now, this was in my sophomore year of high school, and this is the first time that we had running water. Running water that came through pipes. We had running water. You'd run down there, get water, and run back with it. That was running water. But first time we had water that actually ran through pipes that came to the house. And first time we actually had a bathtub, had a shower in the house was my sophomore year. First time we actually had an indoor toilet was my sophomore year of high school. And so, boy, we loved that house. And that was, after my father passed away, my mom was left with 9 children. So it was my mother, 9 children. And she raised all of us in that house. Now that is a 4-room house. And actually there was 1 bedroom, a kitchen, and what we called a front room and a middle room. And so 1 bedroom, 9 children, and mom. And so we were spread out all over the house there. That's the backyard of the house, backyard of it. And how many bedrooms and bathrooms would you guess we had? So there was that 3 rooms with that. That was the Rutherford house behind us. Now, there, my mom had 9 children. The Rutherfords had 16 children. And so right there on that piece of property, there was 25 kids running around. We had fun. We had fun. So that was awesome. And so we grew up 45 minutes from Memphis, Tennessee. 45 minutes from Memphis, Tennessee. At night, you can see Memphis illuminated there. When it get dark, you see the lights, and we dream, man, what is going on over there? Or we say, man, I'm tired of being poor. One day we're going to go to Memphis, and we're going to hit it big, and we're going to be over there, man, and we're going to sing, and we're going to dance, and we're going to make money, and we're going to come out from over here in Arkansas. And none of that ever happened for us. But we always wanted to go to Memphis. We would take school trips to Memphis, and so grew up 45 minutes from Memphis. And so this is a picture I took of the Lorraine Motel where Dr. King was killed. And Dr. King has become, I lived in the South, heard speeches, saw footage. We were very close to where all the action was going on, and grew up with that. And one of Dr. King, a lot of people don't know all of the speeches in the books that were written. One of his most famous speeches is, I have a dream. Can anybody name another speech or written work without citing I have a dream or the letter from the Birmingham jail? Very few people can. And so most Americans flub that quiz. But Dr. King was a national hero whose birthday the country commemorates on Monday. But to many people, Dr. King remains a one-dimensional hero. And the vast body of his work is basically unknown. He wrote 5 books and delivered 450 speeches a year. But yet he's defined by one speech and one letter. There are great works that Dr. King that never get the attention that they deserve. One of them, and I'll cite part of it today, is Our God is Marching On. And that was a speech delivered by Dr. King on March 25th, 1965 in Montgomery, Alabama. And it was at the end of the Selma to Montgomery March that he delivered it. And when the roaring crowd joins King in shouting, "Glory, hallelujah," at the end of the speech, the movement's most brutal but critical campaigns. 3 civil rights activists were killed, and other marchers were beaten at the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And King gave his defiant speech while standing on the steps of the Alabama State Capitol in Montgomery. It was a city known as the cradle of the Confederacy. And this was the high water mark for the civil rights movement. The Selma campaign would spark the passage of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. And what King said during that speech, he praised the white clergy and the lay people of various faiths who traveled to Selma to face danger with African-American protesters. He said that segregation was on its deathbed, and the movement was now be prepared to march on poverty. Signature lines from that speech, he said, "They told us we would never get here. And there were those who said that we would get here only over their dead bodies. But all the world today knows that we are here, and that we're standing before the forces of power in the state of Alabama saying, we ain't gonna let nobody turn us around." I come to say to you this afternoon, however difficult the moment,
yes, sir. However frustrating the hour, it will not be long, because truth crusher will rise again.
Yes, sir.
How long? Not long.
Yes, sir.
Because no lie can live forever.
Yes, sir.
How long?
Not long, because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Others that read the speech replied, they said the speech marked the triumphant end of the first phase of the civil rights movement, seeking legal and political rights, and the beginning of a new phase focused on economic inequality. Others said that we see King at a moment of triumph. He's on the steps of the Alabama State Capitol, and he's come a long way, but he has miles to go. America was still economically and socially divided nation. And that's from Our God is Marching On. Another speech that he gave was, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? And that's why look at where I grew up, I look at the struggle I had, I look at the things that happened to me personally, that happened to family members personally, and and where I stand today is just miraculous. And being here, Dr. King was a hero to me, and seeing somebody that gave us an example to live by, how to dress, how to conduct yourself in public, how to get things done. And so those are some of the principles that I'm teaching our students at Urban Prep, and was just overjoyed when you opened the doors for them to come in here and for them to see another side of life, for them to see opportunities that exist out there, that everybody's not going to be a basketball player, everybody's not going to be a football player, but there's state legislators that you can rub shoulders with today. There's business people, there's educational people, there's entrepreneurs, there's good people in here that have made it. And they didn't make it on the basketball court, and they didn't make it on a football field, but it was perseverance, hard work, character, integrity, those things that people can make it by. And that's what I want to expose my students to. And I feel like that is my mission, is to carry that on. September 15th, 1963, at the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, there was 4 black schoolgirls, Addie Mae Collins, Carol Denise McNair, Carol Robertson, and Cynthia Diane Wesley. And nobody ever mentions those girls' names. But 4 students on September 15th, 1963, that lost their lives in the bombing of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. And while they were dying, leaving one world, entering into another, I was born September 15th, 1963, leaving one world, coming into another. And so I feel like my life has some kind of significance and meaning for me to continue on and help children have an opportunity to progress in life. Dr. King's 5th book was published in 1967. You say, well, why is it important? Because this was Dr. King's last book, and it was his most radical book. By 1967, Dr. King was organizing the Poor People's Campaign. It was a plan to dispatch an interracial army of poor people to occupy Washington and force the U.S. government to address the issue of poverty. What he said, he takes on black nationalists who had ridiculed the nonviolence movement. And he says the passage of civil rights law is not enough. The country must now institute a massive new national program to attack poverty. And he predicts the civil rights movement will go international as oppressed people in other countries adopt nonviolent tactics to combat economic colonialism. Some of the signature lines that he used is, white Americans must recognize that justice for black people cannot be achieved without radical changes in the structure of our society. The comfortable, entrenched, the privileged cannot continue to tremble at the prospect of change of the status quo. This is a multiracial nation where all groups are dependent on each other. There's no separate white path to power and fulfillment, short of social disaster, that does not share power with black aspirations for freedom and human dignity. What others said, Dr. Doreen Lurie, a sociology professor at Arcadia University in Pennsylvania, said, I get so tired of people turning Dr. King into a dreamer. That Dr. King was not a dreamer. By him just being a dreamer, that made him safe. But Dr. King was a revolutionary. And so knowing that, I turned our attention back to this. Dr. King was in Memphis, Tennessee, when he was assassinated. And I talked to my students today, why was Dr. King in Memphis? They told Dr. King, if you come to Memphis, you will lose your life. If you come to Memphis, you'll certainly be killed. But Dr. King was in Memphis. He went there anyway, knowing that there was a possibility of him being assassinated. But why was he in Memphis? Why was this what they call a revolutionary in Memphis? There were garbage men, trash men, who were being underpaid. They were underrepresented. And Dr. King went to Memphis to fight for trash men, fight for fair wages for trash men. And he lost his life there in Memphis, Tennessee, 45 minutes from where I grew up. And when we heard that news, it reverberated throughout the community, and there was a lot of fear, uncertainty. We wondered, will we ever make it out? Is this the end for us? Are we relegated to this life of poverty or whatever? But I found this avenue called education. And I didn't get the opportunity that others had. When I went to my high school counselor and talked to them about me going to college, my high school counselor looked at me and said, kids like you don't go to college. We were poor, lived out there, so kids like you don't go to college. You know what my high school counselor did with me in the summertime? He didn't take me on college tours. He took me to the cotton fields, and he had me work in the cotton fields. And I remember one day, I took that hoe that we used and I threw it away. Threw it away. As a 17-year-old, I threw that thing away and I walked out of that field and I said, I know it's a better life than this. And people were, and people were calling me to come back. And I said, no, 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 no. So I went and I got me a job at McDonald's. Woo! I was in the air conditioning and not in the heat. And so that's where my journey started, was at McDonald's. And it wasn't long, I was the manager at McDonald's. I was overseeing things there. And so here we are, Memphis, Tennessee, where Dr. King at the Lorraine Motel. Dr. King, I don't know if you see that, room 306. These are the actual cars that they drove to Memphis. Everything is still the same as it was that day that Dr. King was assassinated. That's room 306 at the Lorraine Motel. They're in Memphis. The actual cars, everything is still the same. I remember taking that picture and looking up at room 306 and my wife standing there with me, and we were staying at a hotel not far away. And we were standing there taking that picture, and my wife leaned over. She said, our hotel room number is 306 that we're staying in. And I'm like, wow, wow. And then it came to me that we're all in room 306. We're all in room 306. What do you mean we're all in room 306? Dr. King knew that if he came out of room 306, that there was the possibility that he would lose his life if he stepped out of 306. If he stepped out of that box, he would lose his life. And so I say we're all in 306, and sometimes we don't want to step out of our box to make a change because we're afraid that we'll lose friends, we'll lose associates, we'll lose this, we'll lose our life. What will people think of us? But somebody has got to step out of room 306, and they've got to stand out there, and whatever people throw at them, whatever people shoot at them, they've got to take it if they're going to bring change. 5 years ago, I stepped out of room 306, started the Urban Prep Academy. Has it been easy? No, it hadn't always been easy. Have we been shot at? Yes, we've been shot at. Have we been talked about? Yeah, we've been talked about. But we're out of 306. We're out of 306, and we're making some changes in the lives of young people. So there it is, Dr. King making his speech, and there I am, woo, in DC with Dr. King. Yeah, that's at the museum, but made it to Washington, DC to finally put my arm around Dr. King. Yeah, awesome. So I'll open it up for any questions or comments or.
Okay, we'll begin first by saying that we appreciate very, very much this great presentation. We'll start off by asking questions from the members, and and then we'll open it up to guests. So does anybody have a question or a comment that they would like to make right now?
Could you explain to us why you had to hide when you went home to the cotton fields?
Yes.
What happened?
From that distance and traveling that gravel road, I had friends that after school activities, and the way things were going in the South, young black men were being killed at the time. They were being caught coming home from school, and had some friends that had been caught coming home from school and threw in the trucks and killed. And so we were instructed that when we travel, not to travel on the road, but I had to run through the field. And whenever you saw headlights, you didn't know what was going on. So you just lay down in the field and wait on the lights to pass, and then you get up and run again. So it's for safety reasons that we were taught to do that. I had an uncle that was murdered during the civil rights time. During that time, he was caught. They executed him, put a bullet to his head, wrapped him up in barbed wire, threw him in a river. We never knew what happened to him. He disappeared. There was a farmer that was plowing one day and saw this body come up out of the water after it decomposed, and it was my uncle. And I remember sitting on our porch there, probably 7, 8 years old, consoling my first cousins that had lost their father during that time.
I may have missed it in the presentation, but did you go to a predominantly black school? Was your counselor black? And do you think that has changed in today's schools, the way that the black students are encouraged to go to school?
That's a great question. I grew up there, and remember Joyner. So just south of Joyner, down the road, there was a small town called Frenchman's Bayou. And Frenchman's Bayou is where we went to school before desegregation. And it was a school that was built by the local farmers for the black farmers' children to be able to go to school. And so it was a K through 12 school there in Frenchman's Bayou. And so then I went there my first grade year. The next year, there was desegregation. And so they moved the second through 8th grade students, second through 9th grade. 9th grade was junior high back then. So they moved 1st through 9th. We moved to Shawnee Elementary School in Joyner. And that was the first year of desegregation. Is that I remember driving up on the bus driver taking us there our first day, and all the teachers lined up outside to greet these busloads of black children coming into our school, and the reception that we got. It was, we had some good teachers, we had some bad teachers, but they really cared for kids. Some of them did. We were treated different at times because they were learning, we were learning, and mixing society like that. They did not desegregate the high schools for fear of riots and fights then. So growing up, that counselor, I think things have really changed. I visited that school, and it is thriving. They're really working with kids. I'm seeing kids now at that school really get some great opportunities for college, and they're really working. That area, it's completely changed.
We have a question here.
So when you were, like when your friends were driving, they got caught, was it the KKK that came across them, or was it different? Anybody that came grab them?
Yeah, it wasn't just specifically the KKK. There were just people in society that could not get past the color of someone's skin, or thinking that someone should have the same privilege as they did. So it wasn't specifically the KKK. It was just people who were unlearned and did not know how to accept people that were different than them, into the same world that they lived in.
Thank you, Bishop, for being here. I'm so happy to see you. I'm from the Delta to Mississippi.
Oh, yes.
Exactly what you're talking about. My question, I'm going to make a statement, and then I have my question after that. In the public schools, as for Martin Luther King's celebration, it's sugar-coated to me. You went in details that the kids and the public needs to know. It appears they don't know the history and the details of how far we have came in the sacrifices that we black people made and our ancestors made to get to this point. And like you say, America is the best land to be in for
Yes.
opportunity. They don't know. I look at some of our black kids today and I want to cry. And I'm so glad, and of course, you know, I've been over there to your school, but a great job you're doing what need to be done. My question to you, or statement, and I really do want you to elaborate on it. The kids today, the black kids today, really do not know where we've been and how far we have came here in America. And I think especially in the public schools, they're not teaching, they have just kind of sugarcoated what had happened. I mean, the Ku Klux Klan, the bombing of the schools and everything. So could you elaborate the details as far as the kids, they're teaching about where we've been and where we're coming from? Because it appears I look at them and I see them in the community, because I'm active in the community, and I want to cry.
Yes, yes. And we again, you know, for me personally, for me to stand here, it's phenomenal with me. And that's where I wanted our children to come and experience the Pachyderm Club and experience everybody else, to know that there are people that really believe in them, that support them, that have gone before them, that are still working. I've got partners in this room that we are beyond race. We are beyond the color of our skin, and they really support and help us. And so, like Dr. King said, Taretha, a lie cannot live forever. And so that's why I tell our children and getting them, one of the things that I did to try to help educate children, I saw the Martin Luther King celebrations years ago. And I was like you, everything is being sugar-coated, you know, even among black leaders, it's being sugar-coated. And then it was just a church service and all this, and people getting together and saying, hey, we did Dr. King. So mine went deeper than that. I said, I'm going to do something for the children. So about 8 years ago, I started the Martin Luther King celebration at our church specifically for children, to get them to learn more about Dr. Martin Luther King. So we do a free breakfast. After the breakfast, the children are divided up K through 8, and they go into classrooms, and they learn more than the I Have a Dream speech. They learn about the letter to Birmingham. They learn about what happened in DC. They learn about what happened in Alabama. They learn about Dr. King's travels, Dr. King's troubles. They learn different things like that. They go in that classroom and they learn. Then I took them, and it was just designed for young people, but now it's grown to a citywide thing. I took them out there on Broadway on an actual march. This is how they marched on the streets. This is what they did. This is what they chanted. This is how they locked arms. And to teach our children like that, and still do it every year. And it's grown. We've got a lot of the middle schools that are participating in it now, high schools. We got Derby High School. They bring their band, ROTC, Meade, Jardine, different schools that participate, Hamilton, that have become a part of it, because we want to educate the children on what really happened, where we've come from. And I talk to our children urban prep. You know, you guys, y'all wake up now talking about the internet. You know, we didn't grow up with internet. They're like, what? No, we didn't have these cells. And I asked them, how would you like to be at a house and talk on a phone, and you have to stand in one place? And you can't move to another room, you can't go in the garage, you can't go on the porch, but you stand in one place. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, that's how we grew up. Yeah, and so times have changed. Excuse me. So we have to continue to educate children. and teach them the things of Dr. King, how to dress. That's why I wanted every one of our boys today, you're wearing a tie. You're going to dress up. Okay? You don't have a time to bring your tie. But we're going to wear ties. We're going to wear suits. Okay? We're going to conduct ourselves on a higher level and teaching children things like that. Honor, respect, things like that.
Yeah, Pastor, I agree with everything you've been saying. I wanted to make a comment. Prejudice is not territorial, it's all over the world. But the first time I became aware of the black prejudice, my father was a transit worker. We were in Springfield, Illinois. And I had to walk through a black neighborhood to get to a white school. That's the first time I ever realized segregation existed.
Yeah.
I never could understand that back then. But I agree with Dr. King. The problem is you got to attack poverty. Education is the way to do it. Because just like you, I've picked cotton before too. So
awesome. We're in the brotherhood.
You have the right means by saying you got to get the education. You got to get rid of the bad economics.
Yes. And that's what Dr. King believed in, was that education. And I tell people often, Dr. King went and he got laws changed. He got laws changed. Dr. King, and I told somebody this quote today, he says, the law cannot stop a man from hating me. That's something that he has to have a change of heart. But the law can stop him from lynching me. And so we get laws changed. And so that's why with education, I work so hard to get laws changed. And that's the thing that we have to do, is work to get laws changed to help citizens all over the United States.
Two of my favorite movies, I'm hesitant to use that word, but one is In the Heat of the Night with Sidney Poitier, I believe, and then Mississippi Burning, Daniel Defoe's, I believe, the story. Especially Mississippi Burning. I mean, I watch it every time I can. It's a very troubling movie. But do both of those movies present an accurate picture of what life was like in the rural South during that era?
Yes, familiar with both of those. And, you know, with movies, you know, they do all, they try to come as close as they can and putting together a movie to make it realistic, but then there's things that they have to leave out that are not, so that it can be, I guess, past some kind of screening to be put in television and movies. But they are very accurate, very accurate. Mississippi Burning, very accurate. Those things, yeah, actually happen. I experienced those things. I remember at our school in Frenchman's Bow, and when we desegregated, went to Shawnee Elementary. Shawnee Elementary, problems between black students and white teachers. And I remember there was a teacher that choked one of the black boys, and the boy kicked the student. The student kicked the teacher, so the teacher would let him go. And the kid got in trouble, and that night, that family's house burned down. And they left Arkansas, and they moved overnight to St. Louis. Things like that would happen all the time. So very accurate, very accurate. Yep.
Wade, what was the moment, and maybe before you were starting the school, what was the spark that said, I'm going to start a school and help these children? Was it some time back in your past that said, you know, this is my mission in life, I'm going to do this, or did this slowly come about? What was that spark that got you to do this?
You know, I think back over that, and hurting people carry the power to heal. And a lot of times we wonder why we go through things. But someone that's been deeply hurt has a deep gift to bring healing. And so I carried that hurt. I never got over that hurt. of being let down, being rejected, told that I could not go to college, I could not succeed. What brought healing to me was starting Urban Prep Academy and giving other children opportunity. So I carried that for years, Dan, and it stayed with me, and I could not shake it. That children shouldn't be treated like this if they have an opportunity, if they want to do something. So it was that hurt that I felt all those years that would never go away. That when the opportunity kind of presented itself, believe me, it wasn't gift wrapped in a package. A lot of fight, a lot of prayer, a lot of tears to get this off the ground. But it was that pain. You know it, yeah.
Oprah started an academy several years ago. Do you ever hear how is that still in force in Kenya? It was a girls' academy there, and it was, she did some work with that on television. Have you heard anything about that?
I remember her starting the school and them advertising on television and her reaching out and sowing a lot of money and getting those girls going, you know. I would think that it is still going. Haven't heard anything about it.
It was recently on TV again.
Was it?
Yeah, okay, well, thank you, thank you. Also, the question about Martin Luther King, if he knew of the threat that he was going, his life was under threat, I assume, all the time, why did he not provide security for himself with security on that balcony?
Yeah, and that is a great question. If you knew of the threat, why wouldn't he provide security? So at this time, this is 1968, at this time in the civil rights movement, you had these two factions. First, there was this radical group that they believed in violence, and they thought that we ought to fight and be militant and violence and getting some things done. And so at this time, what a lot of people don't know is Dr. King had lost a lot of support. The movement was just about non-existent. He had lost so much support. People stopped believing in what he was doing because they didn't think we were getting anywhere. And there was that other side that says we need to take up arms and we need to go and fight. And so there were people that would not support him at this time. So he was there with just a handful of his most trusted people that believed in him at that time. Others had walked away, and this was some of the loneliest times of his life.
Yes. Can you elaborate a little bit more about when you threw your whole away and decided, I'm going to leave my comfort zone, and how other people might want to do the same thing?
Yes. You know, and you say you've picked cotton. Anybody here ever chopped cotton? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Those long, hot days and being out there in that field. And then, you know, you're thinking, and I'm thinking as a kid, and I'm always a thinker, and I tell everybody, be a thinker, think. I'm thinking, I'm not going to school every day to come here in the summertime and do this. I mean, we go to school, and then you're 13, you go to the field, and you don't need a GED to. And thinking, this is not it. There's got to be something to where we don't go to school all year just for us to come out here in the summer and do this. You know, and me as I was one to be challenged. I was a reader. I tell kids that's what helped me out. I was a reader. And so I read everything. I drive my family crazy. I mean, if we go somewhere, I'm reading every license plate. Arkansas, GSX 913, speed limit 55, yield. I'm reading, and they would just drive them crazy. So I was a reader. And so knowing that you know, my mind was not designed for that, a lot of people, to not be afraid to get out of the box, not be afraid to understand that you've got this this God-given gift. You've got this assignment on your life that you can use to help other people better their lives. And again, it takes us putting that hoe over our shoulders or walking out of room 306 to do that.
Bishop Moore, give us some idea of how the state helps as far as its funding the urban prep. And is there anything we can do to help you?
All right. So is the first part of that a joke, John? State helps in funding urban prep. So that's John's a good. So the state, the state, county, city, federal, urban prep receives zero funds from any of those. We are separate. We're on our own. The only way that we make it is that I go out, do presentations, or some generous souls understand and they see the mission that we're doing and they contribute to it. We have been able to get the tax credit scholarship for low-income students passed in 2015, second year after we opened Urban Prep Academy. And it was expanded last year to give a tax credit to every Kansan, that they can receive a dollar-for-dollar tax credit up to 70% of their donation when they give toward the tuition of a low-income student that's coming from public school into private school. And so that's how we make it. Parents, we don't turn any children away because of economics, because they can't pay. We sit down with families, show them the real numbers. This is what it costs. What are you able to do? And some of them, say, well, I can do $100, I can do $50, I can do $25 or whatever. And then, it starts out fine, but about this time of the year, that even falls off because families have struggles and all that. So we are dependent upon the tax credit scholarship law. We haven't received any grants yet. We need a grant writer to help us in that area, someone to help in the area of fundraising. So that's how we make it. It's ridiculous. I don't get a paycheck. I live totally by faith. I don't get a paycheck from the school. I work there 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. I don't get a paycheck from the school. I don't get a paycheck from my church. I just live by faith. And so that's what we do.